Welcome to Board Game Bonkers, and my name's Jay Sears, and this is a hot Meeples show. We're going to take a look at three different hot board game topics, which we're going to pull out from this bowl. And with me is Sarah Shah from Board Games in a Minute. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi.
And before I actually kick off with this, please do consider subscribing to the channel because around 98% of you don't actually subscribe, which is a good thing, but it'll also be great as well if you subscribe. And please do consider giving this video a thumbs up as well if you enjoy the content on it. So what I'll also doing is putting the link in the description down below for Sarah's channels and Board Games in a Minute, so you'll be able to check that out as well. So we'll just get straight into the have I just paused this recording? I have no idea. No, I
No,
haven't.
it
I
looks like
panicked
it's still
there.
recording.
Panicked there. I thought, oh no, I've touched something. Okay, let's just get into this. Let's pull out the first one, Sarah, and see what comes out.
Sounds
So
good.
these are completely random, so we have no idea which ones are coming out. So the first one, Sarah, is when does deluxified slash huge board games with giant miniatures become too much?
When does Deluxify become too much? I guess when it's not super necessary or when it's like just everything becomes deluxified, right? I think board games, to have some deluxe components are nice, but of course that's going to increase the cost of board games, right? So when you have a board game, like for example, I think it's called Foundations of Rome, right? Where, this board game could have been made with just cardboard pieces because essentially it's a polyomino game, right? Where you're just creating your own city of Rome. But instead they have this game with these giant miniature buildings, and so it's a giant box, you know what I mean? So was that really necessary? What if they did it like where some pieces were cardboard and some special buildings were maybe miniatures instead of every building being a miniature? Because then the argument could be made that if you have a board game where every single component is deluxified, then it's cost prohibitive for some people to purchase that board game. And then are some people might argue then is the hobby becoming less inclusive then where certain people can't afford those board games, if every single component is going to be deluxified in a board game. So there's all these things and factors to take into consideration. So I think when every single component is deluxified and that's the only option for the board game for you to back or purchase, then maybe not a great idea. But if you have various tiers where it's your choice whether you want something to be more deluxified, I think that's better.
Yeah, absolutely. There's got to be a balance, isn't it? Especially when it
Yeah.
comes to crowdfunding games. So you've got to have some options for one, the affordability, and two, what people might want and given some choice. And I
Yeah.
can understand why people like the deluxified version because you've got that tactile feel to it as well that some people
Oh, yeah.
like and enjoy, and it can enhance a gaming experience. But also, you can strike that balance. Is it worth it? And are you getting your money's worth out of that game by spending that much? Whether that's you're purchasing deluxified components separately, or whether it already comes packaged with the game as well, and you're paying that extra cost for it. But also, you have to consider as well, especially shipping costs when it comes to particularly crowdfunding games in particular. So you've all got those factors, and you're right, there's a cost element to this, and can people afford that? And is it necessary? And sure, it gives a table presence as well, certain games, and it makes it pop. And it can be a selling point as well, can't it? Because it's gimmicky sometimes. Oh, look at this. This looks great. We'll buy it because of that. So you have that. I can understand from a marketing point of view, but also, is it necessary? And that's where it becomes individualized to that person and what is important for them.
Yeah. Yeah, just when you were talking, I was thinking I'm guilty of deluxifying some of my board games, which then don't even get played that often. So was it worth it? Like when I compare the cost to play ratio, like maybe not. So
Yeah, and I'll give one example that you've got other exceptions as well. So Blood Rage, I've had all the miniatures painted, but we've been playing that regularly quite often. So, and although it's cost quite a lot of money to get it all painted, I'm not a painter, I don't paint them, I shipped it off to get painted professionally. Cost a lot, but it actually enhances the game experience. It makes it much better visually. And we're playing that regular every single week. So we're getting our money's worth out of it, and enjoying it. And it's given a nice factor. And people are like, wow, they look amazing. And it just enhances that experience slightly and makes it more engrossing. So yeah, you've got to weigh up, is it worth it? And are you getting your money's worth? That's the way I see it. Am I getting my money's worth? And then I compare it as well. If I'm having a jolly in the pub and a night out, that might cost me 60 to 100, pounds, dollars, whichever country you want to use. But if I'm buying a game, it's, £1 to £200, then I might get my money's worth. And sure, if I'm getting two or three plays at that, I'm actually got my money back in a sense if I compare it to a night out. So there's different ways of looking at it when it comes to deluxified. But there's also that question, is it necessary? And that really comes to that individualized personal preference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one could argue it's never necessary, but what is necessary. So I personally would say it's never necessary. It's just a nice thing to have. And like you said, the tactile feel of certain components is a huge part of one's enjoyment when playing board games. I know it is for me. So, but I still wouldn't say that it's necessary. I just think it's a luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a key thing. If it makes you happy, then that's what matters, not the cost of it, is whether it
Yeah.
makes you happy, and that's all that matters. But it'd be interesting to know actually how many of our viewers have deluxified board games and did they feel that was necessary or they wanted to buy it, and that's given them that joy and excitement of gaming. It'd be interesting to know, but we won't dwell on it too much. Let's dive into our next one, Sarah, and see what comes out. So for a second one, we have got publishers need to stop making ridiculously large boxes for tiny games. This is an
Yes.
interesting
Oh
one.
my God, that bothers me so much. I really do not like it when I get like a big box and inside are just a couple cards. It's like, why? Why did they do this? Number one, you've increased the cost for the customer by creating a bigger box, like, and it's just wasted space. The amount of resources that went into making this big box that wasn't necessary for just a few cards, it irritates the hell out of me. Like, I really cannot stand when games do that.
Yeah, I can understand from a marketing point of view because it pops on the shelf. I completely understand that. But there are a lot of people, and I'm like you, that gets frustrated because of the size of the box is taking up far too much space in the gaming shelves. Why can't you just, you've got an equal element to it as well. Is it necessary to be using all that cardboard? You could make two games out of it. So, and also as well as the cost element, I can understand from a marketing point of view, the bigger it looks, the more you generally sell. I completely get that. But is it really necessary? No, it's not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. But to counter that, like, okay, maybe from a marketing standpoint, yeah, maybe you might see the box on a shelf because it's larger and it might be displayed, but having a smaller box that's more portable, like your game is going to get played more often, probably, if it's more portable. Like, for example, myself, like when I go to game nights at my local game store or a friend's house, I take games which I find easier to carry. I'm not going to take a bigger box. So if you have a small game that's very portable, it's likely to get played more. So maybe from a marketing standpoint, that's actually better than being able to display it on a shelf and have like the image visible to someone. I don't know.
Yeah, you've got to argue that psychological element to it as well, because if people feel that there's more in a box than what's already there, it's like if you go to a supermarket, okay, and you buy a packet of something, and the packet's twice the size, you open it, and it's like, where's all my crisps? It's like I've got five
Yeah,
crisps in this
it's
giant
just
packet.
all, yeah,
Yeah,
you're paying for empty like space in the
yeah,
bag. It's mostly air and then a few chips.
yeah.
Yeah.
So shall we dive into our last one, Sarah?
Yes.
Let's see what comes out. All right. So we've got two here. Let's just take this one. So our third one is, does semi-cooperative in board games really work? Have you played many?
Yeah, semi-cooperative. I know I have, and I'm trying to think of some at the moment. Like where up to a certain point, you kind of want to work together, but maybe in the end, you actually have your own goal. I know I've played games like this before, but now I cannot think of which ones they were. Um,
So if you
but
are, you've got Nemesis, you've got the Great Wall, Dead of Winter's got a kind of traitor element to it.
that of Winter
Um,
I've played. Yeah.
yeah, so and I remember so I played Great Wall, played Nemesis, because again you can play cooperative with Nemesis, but also you've got your own agenda and you're all trying to get off and find your way of getting off the ship. So yeah, it's an interesting mechanism that you use. You've got your little agenda, but you don't tell anyone what it is. But usually you can figure out usually halfway or three quarters way through a game who is who. Personally, I hate it. I don't like it because I'll give a good example. So you're playing the Great Wall and you've got to share these action spaces, okay? So I'm placing my meeple or person onto the action space, but I have to have someone go along with me. So we might agree, say, and say, okay, yeah, I'll come along with you, Jay. Yeah, I'll do that. So I'll put my piece in first. I'll put my piece down. And you go, no, 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 I'm going to change my mind now. So I can't get that resource because I need X amount of people onto that area. So you've then decided now I'm going to go here and partner with this person because I actually want this resource instead. So it can be quite nasty and how it works and really frustrating. And you think that's now spoiled my whole entire game strategy.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Moonrakers, actually. I wonder if Moonrakers is considered to be semi-cooperative because it's more of a negotiation game, right? You're trying to fulfill these contracts, but you're asking the other people to join you, and then you'll divvy up the rewards. And so you're trying to work with them, like, okay, if you join me on this contract, then you'll get the prestige points, I'll get the money, like, and you're trying to divvy it up. But, it's whoever gets to a certain amount of points first who's going to win. So, yeah, I mean, from the plays I've had of Moonrakers, I found it to be really fun, like trying to negotiate with people, but it gets to a point where you're going to stop doing that. Like you want to negotiate to a certain point where you can start accumulating things, but then as you're accumulating more and more, you want to be able to do stuff on your own because then you don't want to help anyone, and then it becomes more competitive. I do really love Moonrakers though, so I don't know.
It's actually a key problem, I think. Usually towards the later part of a game when it's semi-co-op is you get that solo element that people are on their own because they know exactly what other people are doing. They know exactly, right, if I go there and help them, that's going to stifle me. So therefore, but oh, I'm going to work with them instead because I know they can't catch up. So I personally think it's broken. That's just my opinion. I don't personally like it. I don't enjoy it because of that backstabbing. I kind of either want to work together as a team or be on my own and work against you. And I want to know from the outset. But also I want to have it quite open so I know exactly what the winning conditions are. And when it's hidden, it makes it much, much more difficult. And it being really frustrating, I think, especially towards the end. And then you think you've been betrayed. But I suppose that all depends on your friendships as well. So
What if there were a semi-cooperative game where if like throughout the game you're playing basically, doing your own thing, but then like maybe let's say there's an event that comes up and everyone who contributes to the event gets something. Like what if there is like positive reinforcement for working together, but it's not necessary? How would you feel about that?
I think I'd be fine with that because you're kind of still working towards a goal, a common goal. We're all contributing to something. And the Great Wall is something like that. So you can contribute to resources to building the walls. You all play a part. But you can get one or two people that think, I'm not contributing. The wall will still get built anyway. And you can kind of be nasty and think, well, I'm not going to win, so I'm not going to contribute to anything towards that wall and just let it crumble. And well, I'm going to die anyway, so may as well let you all die, crumble at the same time. So it can work. I suppose how it's done is as well. So I've got a game called, I can't remember what it's called. Is it Castaways or something? I think it's Castaways. So it's you're stuck in this island, a bit like Robinson Crusoe, and you've got this ridiculous semi-cope moment. So basically, you're going through this journey. It's almost storytelling. You're going up this mountain. You're revealing these cards. You're coming across these tribes, and you can use these book tokens. So essentially, these book tokens can help you as you're going through that journey, or you can keep them. So ultimately, at the end of the game, whoever's got the most book tokens is the winner because you've written in your journal. But it's a little bit ridiculous because you've kind of working together to get off the island together anyway. So you've all kind of won. So you may as well just use them to try and help the team.
Yeah, that's true.
But so yeah, it can be frustrating. That's just my feeling. People might love it, and I know a lot of people enjoy semi-co-op, and that's perfectly fine. It just isn't for me. I just personally, I think it's one of these Marmite moments, isn't it? You either love it or you hate it, I think.
That's fair. Not everyone has to like everything, so
It's got to be either or, competitive or cooperative. I just think, yeah, mixing the two just doesn't work for me. I personally feel it's a little bit flawed. But yeah, if people enjoy it, that's fine. That's all that matters. It just isn't for me. I think it's a divide in the community, and this, just like certain things would divide the community. And I think this would be one of those moments.
lots of things divide the community. So this is just another one of those. Yeah.
It's a small one, though. It's a small one.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end. That's our three hot topics discussed. And if you've enjoyed this, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Please check out Sarah's channel. The link is in the description down below. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
This is Bonkers.